Hello, GAFSA. My name is Kimball Gallagher, and I am a classical pianist from New York City. And the theme is Dream, Think, Execute. So I'm going to share a process that I had where I was trying to buy a piano. And as a pianist, right when I graduated from college, not having a piano was a big problem for me. So there was a very concrete problem that I wanted to solve in my own life. And this is really the dream portion of Dream, Think, Execute. I was dreaming of having my own piano. Very simple, very clear outcome in this case. However, I had no money and no idea how I was going to get this piano. So, the title of this talk is called Conversation is the Most Important Entrepreneurial Tool. So, I'm going to share with you this process where I figured out how to get a piano by using conversation. So it was very simple. The idea really is just to share the process that you are having. So my process is that at that time was quite simply, I'm a pianist, I just graduated, and I don't have a piano. How can I get a piano? So that was the conversation. So with a lot of my friends and teachers, and also people who had been mentors for me, I would come to them and say, you know, right now I really need to find a way to get a piano, but I'm not sure exactly how to do that. I don't have the funds. I need to have something that's high quality, but I don't really know past that how I could get the money or what kind of piano I should buy or anything like this. So I'm looking for help. What do you think? So I'm asking for advice. So I asked one of my mentors for advice, and he said, well, why don't you divide the cost of the piano by 88 and ask for donations on a key-by-key basis? Why 88? Well, there's 88 keys on the piano. So it's kind of interesting because you can divide the cost up by 88. And then it might be fun for people to buy the keys. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to take a piano key home with them, but it meant that they would be helping by purchasing the key for me. So this was an interesting idea. So I thought that could be fun. So at this point the conversation shifted a little bit. It was, I am a pianist, I'm trying to get a piano, and I have this idea. I'm going to divide the cost by 88 and ask for donations on a key-by-key basis. Like, what do you think of this idea? So that's the conversation I started having with people, asking for help again. So I started talking to other people, and then somebody said, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I would buy a key. I really want to buy one of your keys. How much does it cost? And then I realized I had no idea what it costs. And I didn't even know what kind of piano I wanted to buy. So somebody who had been a piano teacher of mine, I asked him, and he said, you know, you should talk to this guy, Michael. And Michael was the owner of a piano store in New York. And he said, I think Michael's a little bit creative, and he's interested in thinking of interesting ways how people can get pianos. And so I went to meet Michael. And Michael helped me in several ways. First of all, he showed me a lot of different kinds of pianos I didn't even know existed. I only knew about the most famous kinds. So he showed me a piano called Estonia. Estonia is made in the country of Estonia. It's a very high quality piano, but the cost is actually much lower than a lot of other pianos that you would normally compare to it. So he also had the idea that I could have a fundraising concert at the store. Now keep in mind, I was just 21 or 22 years old at the time, so this idea of fundraising was completely new to me. I had never done anything like this before, and I had no experience in this area. So I was just relying on this process that I'm sharing with you, which is just talking to people. So I got excited about one piano in particular. I sat down and started playing it, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. The problem is the piano cost quite a lot. It cost $25,000. This is a lot of money to spend on an instrument, especially if you're a student and you can barely pay your own rent. So I thought, this is really the piano that I want. This is sort of in the dreaming phase, back to the dreaming phase. Now I know which kind of piano I want. And I was excited about it, but I didn't really know if I could raise all that money. But I kept talking to people, and now the conversation had shifted again. It was, I just graduated, I'm trying to get my own piano, I divided the cost by 88, I'm going to buy this very special Estonia piano, and I am having a fundraising concert on this date, which was like 8 months from then. So I have 8 months to figure out how to raise as much money as I can from this concert. So I started talking to people about this, and some people had some smaller ideas and little things like, oh, I think that's a fun idea, I'd really like to buy this piece, or like, hey, what's the first note of that piece you just played? I want to buy that key. So some people were interested in buying keys, and I had figured out that the keys were $250 per key, because that would cover the cost of the piano and the moving costs and everything. So $250 a key. And then during that summer, I kept having this conversation many times, asking my friends, and some people didn't have any ideas. Some people were kind of like, "Oh, good luck, I don't know how you're going to do that. I don't really have any ideas for you." So not everyone was very enthusiastic, but I kept having this conversation and holding this idea in my mind. So come the summertime, a few months after this, I ran into a friend at a summer music festival where I was, and I mentioned to him that I was buying the piano and dividing the cost by 88, and he said, well, there's this person you need to talk to. Her name's Judy. And it turns out Judy is a fundraiser, professional fundraiser. And I met Judy. She was extremely nice, and I told her what I was trying to do. And so she helped me understand different parts of fundraising and different ways that normally people would go about trying to raise funds. And one way was the idea of a pledge card. And a pledge card is very simple, and in the US it's extremely common. And a pledge card just has the different levels where you can make a donation. So for me, I decided I could have one key, I could have two keys, and in music, two keys is a trill. It's when you have two notes back and forth really fast, like drrrr. So that would be a trill if somebody wanted to buy two keys. And then we had some other categories, and there's even a category called glissando club and crescendo club. These are just musical terms. So she explained to me that it would be a good idea to have some values on the pledge card that were actually much higher than the ones you were expecting to get, because then when people look at the pledge card, maybe the smaller values don't seem quite so scary. She also suggested I have a place called Other, so people could give any amount they wanted, even if it was just $1. So she also helped me understand that when you're fundraising, and for an artist, that it's actually a gift to people to allow them to become part of your process and part of your whole world. And when you're asking somebody to make a donation to you, it's not just the money that they're giving you, you're actually building a relationship with them, so that everything that happens after that as a result of their donation is something that they can be included in and inspired by. And as an artist, I'm going to be giving concerts for my whole life, so I will always be inviting somebody who made a donation to the piano. Maybe they made a donation of $250, but then for the next 20 years they can come to my concerts. And this will be part of their investment, so to speak. So now the conversation had changed again. And I had a fundraising concert date, I had a pledge card. She also suggested that I make a letter. So I write a letter to everyone that I can think of that I wanted to invite to the concert, and an RSVP card, so people could send back precisely what they wanted, whether it was they could not come, they could come, whether they wanted to make a donation or not. So the process then, I sent out maybe about 100 invitations to the concert, and when I started getting mail back, people would send it back in the mail, and actually people would start including checks. So before the concert even started, I had raised some of the money for the piano. This was amazing to me. I didn't realize this was possible. But now, looking back, I realize I had so many conversations where I was asking people for advice. So the concert happened, the first concert happened, and we actually raised $12,000. Keep in mind, again, I was just 22, 23 years old at the time. This was my first time doing this, but I had talked to so many people and they had become interested in this idea, so they came to the concert and they made donations. It was amazing. However, I still was only 50% of the way there. But let's look at how the conversation changed at that point. Instead of saying, I'm trying to raise the money for the piano, I started to say, I'm raising the money for my piano. I'm halfway there. I divided the cost by 88. I had much more confidence, so I was able to speak more directly to people. And I still would ask for advice on how I thought I could finish the process, because I still need to raise more money. But I myself felt different as a person as I was telling this story. And actually, on 2 occasions, I met somebody after a concert, and they asked me, hey, what are you up to? I said, well, I'm dividing the cost by 88, and I'm trying to buy a piano for myself, because I don't have a piano. And on 2 occasions, one woman, she said, "Hold on for a second," and she came back and had a check for me right there. I only knew her for 10 minutes, but for some reason she was very inspired and decided to make this contribution. And then this happened again. We were in Florida at some place to play a concert, and we ran into somebody, and it turned out he was a board member of the school that I went to in New York. And I told him about my fundraising project, and he said he would like to make a donation, and he immediately pledged to do so. Later, I had a second fundraising concert and was able to raise the rest of the money using this same process. So after the fundraising, now the conversation has changed again, because after the fundraising, people asked me to come talk about how I did the fundraising. So now the conversation shifted. It's in the past. I did raise the money for my piano. I divided the cost by 88. It's all past tense now. So the idea here is, the main idea is to share, this is during the think and execute steps, that I was actually sharing my process with people. I was telling them exactly what I was going through at the time I was going through it. I wasn't trying to present an image. I wasn't trying to make things seem like they were better than they actually were. I told people exactly what I was trying to do at all times, and I asked them for advice so that they could help me both psychologically, financially, and with other ideas about how to do it and how to make it work. Something else I'd like to share is this concept that when you think that you have no clue what to do, and a lot of people feel like they need to understand the full process right from the beginning. But that's what I'm trying to share with you right now. I had no idea what the process was going to be, but I used conversation, and I asked for help, and I just sort of trusted that there was going to be some positive outcome. It actually took 2 years, and there were only little spots along the way that I realized, okay, this is what the process really looks like. So if you have some idea, and I would encourage you to think of some idea, something you really care about, that you would like to see it happen, and you have to really care about it, because otherwise you're not going to be willing to invest the amount of energy and time that it takes to follow through on all these things, because it's a lot of conversations. When I said conversation is the most important tool in entrepreneurship, I probably had the conversation about my piano 500 times. 500 times. That means that every person I talked to in my life was probably sick of hearing about it, but it ended up making a really, really good story. And it ended up, I got my piano. It turned out, by the way, that there were some unintended consequences from this whole process. First of all, the piano did not fit into the apartment where I was currently living, so I had to move to a different apartment. This, of course, when you move, it changes a lot of things in your life. And then second, the piano store where I bought the piano were so impressed with the results that they offered me a job as a salesperson at the piano store. And I took the job, and so I ended up learning all about the piano business and all different things about how people sell pianos, and this was like a totally new thing for me, so that was very interesting. And then the other thing was, there were 54 people who purchased this piano for me, and all of them were people that I'm able to keep in touch with and actually got to know much, much better as friends. And still to this day, many of them are still supportive of the artistic activities that I have. So again, it's really not just the money. It gave me the confidence to realize that I could have something, I have no idea how to do it, and if I just start talking to people and I can be open about what the process that I'm going through, that it is possible to attract the help and the support and whatever it is that you might need to fulfill this objective. And for me, it was getting the piano. I also made so many friends in this process because I had to have so many conversations, and we had so many important conversations, and so I was able to deepen a lot of the relationships that I had around me. Now, usually when I tell this story in Tunisia, everyone said, "Oh, that's wonderful. You know, you're from the USA. In Tunisia, this could never happen." Well, I'm here to tell you that you really have to try. There's just no choice but to try. It might not look the same way in Tunisia, but in Tunisia, people do have conversations. And I myself have actually been running a music program in Tunisia for 8 years, every summer, and have done many concerts all over Tunisia with many different people. And I can tell you that this whole idea, it's really a mental idea. So if you have the conversation with somebody and you ask for their help and they say no, then you just go on to the next person. You ask them for help. And if everyone says no, then maybe you have to think about, what am I saying to these people? Or how can I inspire them more? What is it that I can say, or what am I saying that's not inspiring them? And then maybe you can start the conversation that way and say, I'd like to do this. What would be really convincing for you? What would I say that would make you really eager to help? And sometimes I've asked that question to people, and they give me stories of other situations where they've been involved in projects and things like this. So I hope this gives you some food for thought, and think about, what is your dream? What is it that you want to see in your own life? What do you want to see in the world around you? And what conversations can you start with the people around you to build the support, the psychological, the physical, the financial, psychological, and emotional support to make it happen? Thank you very much.